Good morning, boys and girls, friends and lovers, children and of all ages. Can you hear me? Give me a 1 if you can hear me, and a 2 if you cannot hear me. Can you hear me now? We are going to cover some things in a brief amount of time. I'm a little behind schedule, and I'm not going to be commenting live on the police department's live stream. But I want you, my viewers, to start to hear the truth. And so the truth is that things are so jacked up in the city that this man that you're staring at, his name is Michael Hancock. And I don't have a lot of things to say about him that are positive and beneficial. So what I want you to hear from me today is a very bold understanding of the new martial law that is being applied in the city and county of Denver. And I want you to not be shy about understanding this as the truth. Hancock has issued some new orders today. So let's just listen.
Under control. The first public health order is a tougher mask mandate. I want to thank you for joining us for this COVID-19 response update. You know, over the past several weeks, we tried to reduce COVID-19 infections here in Denver. What we are seeing across the country is alarming. Many states and cities are experiencing dramatic increases, and while in Colorado and in Denver we're doing better than these places, we do have our own challenges. As I noted this past Monday at our last update, the increases we have been seeing over these last several weeks in average daily case rates, hospitalizations, and testing positivity rates are concerning. In fact, for average number of daily cases, we're now seeing that we're even higher than we have been, or we're higher than we've ever been over the course of this pandemic. So today, we are issuing 2 public health orders as additional steps to get this infection rate increase back under control. The first public health order is a tougher mask mandate that will require face coverings in more settings and will be effective immediately and be in place until further notice. The second order will address the number of non-related people allowed together in unregulated settings, reducing that number from 10 to 5, and will be in effect until November the 16th. Bob Mcdonald, our city public health administrator, will provide more detail on these 2 orders in just a bit, just a short moment. We're taking these additional steps today to reduce the spread of this virus in our community because right now we need to do more. Several holidays, including Halloween and Thanksgiving, are right around the corner, and we must take these additional steps over the next 30 days and do the hard work that's needed now so that we can enjoy the holiday seasons with our families. Like I said on Monday, here's what's at stake. If we don't bring these increasing caseloads, hospitalization rates, and positivity rates down, we likely will fall backwards on the state's safer at home dial to level 3. And that would be devastating to our economy. These additional steps, we're aiming to strike a balance between keeping people healthy and frankly keeping Denver's economy alive. We don't just see a spike in cases remain isolated to one group. People get infected, and if they don't follow public health guidelines, they go out to places and infect people in other groups. So please, here's our broken record again. Wear your face covering and practice social distancing. I read a letter from the White House this morning, and in it, there were some recommendations. And it said, please consider wearing a face covering. No, the reality is your favorite local restaurant's ability to survive this pandemic depends on you wearing your mask and social distancing. Your favorite local small businesses' ability to survive this pandemic depends on you wearing your face mask and social distancing. Your ability to enjoy being able to go to one of your favorite parks and be in the space depends on you wearing your mask and social distancing. And since this increase in cases isn't just happening in Denver, I also want to strongly encourage our regional partners to take similar steps. This will be much more effective if we do this together, of course. We're going to take a step back and do what we have to do. Do what we have to do now so that we can get back where we were with low numbers and optimism that increased capacity at our favorite places as we were all able to enjoy just a couple of weeks ago. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Mcdonald, who will add more specifics to the two orders. Bob?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. I want to share my screen here, and I want to start out by talking about a little bit what we're seeing across the country. You can see here how various states are struggling a little bit more than we are here in the state of Colorado, and many communities struggling a little bit more than we have in Denver. Denver's never been in a situation in which some of these other states are, where we have very, very high incident rates, as high as what you see in this map here. But we are quickly heading in that direction. So it's very important that we adhere to the existing requirements that are in place and to the ones that we'll be rolling out immediately today. You can see here that all around the state of Colorado, we have states that are much higher in their incident rate. When you take a look at the map in terms of positivity rate, again, Denver and Colorado is doing better than many states, but our positivity rate is rising. We need to keep it below 5%. That's one of the metrics that is looked at in terms of the restrictions that might be imposed upon Denver and the state of Colorado. When we look a little closer to home here, you can see this. Many of you have seen this repeatedly. This is the epi curve for this virus, and you can see how it's responded to the various things that occur in our community, both with physical distancing or eased physical distancing, enforcement, face coverings, holidays, and what have you. And
okay.
You can see here over to the far right.
So as you guys are watching this, what I want to
2-week cumulative incident rate is 265, meaning that if you look at the number of cases that occur every day, you add that up, divide by 14, that's our average cumulative incident rate for a 2-week period, and it continues to climb. It's climbing faster than it has since the start of the pandemic. When you look at the three metrics, case rates is one of the metrics.
So we're going to get there in a minute.
This is the state's dial. It's often referred to.
All right, so I'm going to skip some of this here.
The state's website. Anyone can get in and look at this and see how various communities will be working very closely with our Department of Safety to So to avoid getting to that point, the department will be rolling out again 2 orders. They already have restricted in the work setting. Organized athletic programming is exempt from this requirement. So when I say the department will be rolling out again 2 orders that essentially require enhanced face coverings in venues where you've not seen it before. So effective immediately, face coverings will be required in all outdoor settings now, in addition to indoor settings, with a few exceptions. If you are outdoors with your family members, those that are within your household, you will not be required to wear face coverings. If you are outdoors, congregating with other people outside of your immediate household members, you will be required to wear a face covering.
Okay, so the first rule is
I want to clarify that a little further.
Wear a face mask. Always. You walk outside?
To walk down the 16th Street Mall, I will not be required to wear a face covering. If I were to leave with some coworkers to go down to 16th Street Mall, then I would be required, all of us would be required to wear face coverings just as we do in the work setting. Organized athletic programming is exempt from this requirement. So when I say organized organized athletic programming, that would include, college football, high school football, youth soccer. The reason that they're exempt is because they already have restrictions in place, and they are required to submit plans or put plans in place, I should say, that monitor many things to make sure that it limits the spread within their athletic event. We are also going to issue an immediate order that further restricts gatherings from 10 to 5 people. So right now, the limit in a public gathering, whether it's the 16th Street Mall, our wonderful parks here in Denver, no more than 5 people should be gathering. We need to limit that now, further restrict it to 5 people. It is at 10. We need to move it to 5. Again, this would not include members of the household. So if you have more than 5 members in your household and you're at a park, that's okay. But that would be the limit, that you would not be able to mingle with other groups within the park. Again, non-organized athletic events would be exempt from this for the reasons that I've already mentioned. But I want to touch upon organized events would be exempt, but non-organized events would not be exempt. And what does that mean? That means the pickup game of a large group of people playing football in the park would not be allowed. Anything above 5 people on a basketball court is okay. 5 people, more than 5 people playing football or playing basketball would not be okay. For any sport in which you cannot physically distance, there would be a face covering requirement. And then the same would apply for gatherings at work. A gathering of 5 people would be the limit. Now, having said that, I want to encourage our businesses, particularly in office settings, if you can go virtual, go virtual. If you can hold meetings with less than 5 people virtually, do that. That's only going to help us out. And with everything that we're implementing here, enforcement is as important as ever. We'll be working very closely with our Department of Safety to ramp up enforcement even more than it is now. We have focused a great deal on regulated settings, businesses, and that sort of thing, but these things will be enforced against individuals if need be. So if people are violating the congregating order in a public setting, they run the risk of enforcement. And with that, I will turn it over for questions.
Do you have any questions?
This is Sonia with Nine. I just have a quick question. How will the enforcement be happening in Denver? You said that Bob said that there will be more enforcement. So what will that look like?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We are working very closely with the Department of Safety to make sure to partner with them to check all venues that are under this order. What's going to change?
Bob, turn the camera on.
My apologies. Thank you again for the question. We are currently working with the Department of Safety, and we have been very early on to make sure that there is enforcement with all of these public health orders. We are going to increase the number of members from the Department of Safety to proactively check our parks, the 16th Street Mall, many places in Denver that are popular for gathering.
Okay.
And again,
So I need to pause this video for a second. Can
At
I?
the individual level, if they are congregating in numbers that are not allowed, they would run the risk of being issued a summons to court. And that activity, that large gathering, would be broken up. Members of the Department of Safety are also.
Okay. So I want you to hear that quote directly as the boss looks over the poor man's shoulder. Can you see that? Like that look right there. Michael Hancock, we see you. And what we see in this picture right here is the boss's orders, martial law being deployed. They have just stated that while there is an encampment outside of the mayor's office, that unorganized activities, including individuals at group functions, could be arrested for gathering in group sizes. So if there's more than 5 of you outside hanging out and you co-mingle amongst one another, you might have to go to court. This is an order to silence free speech. This is an order to declare that public gatherings of dissent are illegal for 30 days. That means no protesting the election. That means no every 5th protest. That means no trick or treating. That is an overextension of the government's rights right now. There is a gathering preparing to feed the unhoused on the street. People who are going to provide food in a church setting on the street. There are also autonomous groups, people who are just gathering. And here's the difference, and here's what I want to be clear about, America. Denver, Colorado has just said that if you're an organized activity, you can do it. But if you're just a couple of people showing up to do something, then you might be called to court for your actions. Let's listen in some more, huh?
Also going to proactively or respond to calls where there are violations of the public health order, even in residential settings, which I want to clarify that this does apply to residential settings. So if a member of a household, if there are 4 people within that household, they could have a guest over. If there are 3 people that live in a household, they could have a couple of guests over. If there are 7 people that live in a household, they would be at the maximum, and for the next 30 days, they would not be allowed to have additional guests. These orders, the face covering order, will be in place until further notice. The reduction on the limit of 5 people in a gathering will be effective for the next 30 days. And then 30 days from now, we'll revisit where we are with our data and respond accordingly.
Let me just add.
Who called it? I called it because I heard it a little bit earlier than you did. That's it, folks. That is the order, right? Telling the truth is a revolutionary act. The mask order is now in place, and the orders we'll find for you in a second. We'll see where the print copy is. There has to be a print copy of this order as it's instructed. Give us a moment. Bootlicker in the former ex-bootlicker. The right to assemble shall not be infringed. That's right. being asked to wear a mask is not like asking you to wear a yellow star, Stephen, because everybody does it, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your creed, your race. Everybody is expected to wear a mask. It's unanimous. The right to assemble shall not be infringed. I have that question for you as well. When do they suspend the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States? I want to call it martial law light, because any order of law is just that, martial law. Homeless rights, feed people, right? Now, you have to understand that this is not call your attorney, folks. I already called mine. Let's listen in some more.
And I always enjoy the media's question around how you're going to enforce. And obviously, these orders set the legal framework for the civil enforcement of the laws as we have announced them here. But equally as important is really the fact that we want to send a clear notice and call for personal responsibility, that we are, as a county, brimming on the edge of a crisis that could further endanger individuals' health, as well as damage our economy. And so as much as we want to give people the notice that we have now put in place a legal framework to enforce certain orders to keep people safe, we want to raise the flag and sound the alarm that we all have to take personal responsibility to manage our lives and our activities accordingly so we can keep each other safe and we can make sure that people are able to continue to work in this economy. So I just want to underscore that very important fact as well.
Hey Bob, Hey Bob, it's Ed Seelover with the Denver Business Journal. I'm wondering if you could extrapolate a little bit more on what the fuck 5-person limiting workplaces means. I mean, I think it's obvious that, hey, meetings should be 5 or fewer, but how far does that go? I mean, should that be restaurants should have 5 or fewer people working behind the counter in the kitchen at any given time? Or how do you determine when 5 people gather in a workplace?
Yeah, those businesses that have specific allowances already, they will not be impacted. So 10 people in a restaurant, say 10 patrons sitting at a table, that would not be impacted by this. And the reason for that is because there are many, many other protocols, restrictions that they have to follow. There's regulatory oversight. There are many things in place that you do not see in a social setting. And so these orders will not impact those businesses that have separate allowances, but separate restrictions that they would have to follow.
Bob, can you talk a little bit about the...
Go ahead. I also want to just briefly say that these restrictions do not apply to classroom settings. Our department is working very closely with our partners at Denver Public Health and the school systems to manage how this virus reacts within those settings.
All right, go ahead. Thanks, Bob.
Yeah, Bob, can you talk a little bit about how testing factors into the increased rates? Obviously, the city is doing more testing than previously in March and April when rates were pretty high. So can you talk a little bit about, can you put that in context about how that relates to the higher rates right now?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. Very early on, that the Pepsi Center was stood up to get in front of this, to collect as much data as we could. And then again, we recognized that was a invaluable approach, but we needed to place our testing sites in more strategic locations where we have underserved populations. And we've been very successful doing that. The site that we stood up along the northern corridors of Denver, each of those sites, just those 2 sites alone, are doing roughly 1,000 tests a day, almost half of what the entire Pepsi Center was doing. So I think that strategy of moving the Pepsi Center to smaller but more strategic locations was the right way to go. With respect to positivity, a lot of things can play a factor on that. Certainly the number of people that you test, who you target in terms of testing. And then, if you open it up to everybody to get a test, positivity rate goes down, especially if you have a lot of people getting a test. If you're trying to target outbreak settings or more communities where we see a high percentage of cases, then positivity rate goes up. That's one of the metrics that can swing quite a bit depending upon the approach that's taken. But we've been very successful so far with keeping our testing numbers up. CDC suggests, it's a guidance, CDC suggests that for a city the size of Denver, that we do roughly 1,100 to 1,200 tests. A number of days ago, we were at 3,500 for the city of Denver. All that includes all testing, the wellness winning, our testing done by Denver Public Health, testing done by DDPHE, outbreak settings, and otherwise.
Next question.
This is Anusha with 9 News.
And it seems as if the live video access has ended. So all the questions and answers that we were looking for are currently being processed. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot just tell you how stupefied I am, how fortunate I am that I'm subscribed to all the updates. And that just like the police department of Denver follows me, I follow them. So, City and County of Denver. See if we can figure out where we left off there. We might not have missed much at all.
They might know. Technically, that would be in compliance. However, we strongly encourage, this is not the time for
Rules. So you said like professional and college sports have their own rules, and pickup games you need to have this 5 for.
Look at his smug face. This is Michael Hancock's direct and personal assault on people who do the work, right? So if 5 individuals show up to protest a homeless sweep, that's okay. And if you don't wear a mask while you walk down the street to protest the homeless sweep, that's okay. But as soon as 5 or more people gather, this is a Denver order, Pugface Media. And so as soon as 5 or more people show up to a spot, the park, the 16th Street Mall, they're going to start issuing citations, right? This is as bad as the first dang days. But they've extended it. And you can see by the smug look on Michael Hancock's face I don't have COVID. And so my tests have all come up negative. They do not have the ability to contact trace through any of my private stuff unless I was diagnosed. But again, I'm telling you, you have to hear what they said. If you have 4 people living in your house, you can have a person over. If you have 3 people living in your house, you can have a couple. English matters, words matter. That means 2 people can come to your house. However, if you have 7 people who reside in your domicile, you can't have anybody over, right? 3 people have to leave for somebody else to come on over. So, folks, this is quite disturbing. I hope you're as disturbed as I am. That this is the new order. This is the new setting that we're forced to live by. The screen is frozen. I'm going to try to reboot it. Go to 2205 real quick. See what it has to do. It's being unresponsive, folks. Oh, man. It's not there anymore because the video got silenced. I gotta wait for all the stuff. Oh, maybe we have a live permalink update. Now we can go to 22 minutes and see the smug face of Michael Hancock again. Let's see what happens, friends.
Of the orders is really about responding and reminding people that we still have this pandemic within our society. For example, at this point, we have more young people going to school on campuses, more young people going to school in our buildings, more activity occurring, the fatigue you talk about, which we're all experiencing.
Let me tell you about the fatigue that we're all experiencing. Because I'm really, really tired of this being an us versus them battle. I'm really wishing that the people in charge, like this guy right here, Michael B. Hancock, the mayor of the city and county of Denver, a person who had personal knowledge, it is perceived, to have personal knowledge of an area restriction that says I can't go into a certain place during a campaign to get rid of this guy. True story. Not only, you know, your business shouldn't have 5 people at it, but we're going to pack our schools. We're going to let the restaurants stay open and keep commerce going. But what we're restricting is unorganized or unauthorized or unpermitted activities that disagree with us because y'all just making us look bad, right? Denver police do not wear face masks in public, standing next to each other on a consistent and regular basis. Would you like to see some video? We would just go back a day or two. I guarantee you that that's how easy it can be. Okay? So why do we got to fight all the time for simple rights? It's a good question. It's a good question, hip hop. And Oh, I can't do that from here. Duh. Well, we got to fight for it. So let's figure this out. Let's see if we can go back to sharing the page so that you can see his slimy face. Because I want you to know about my opinions as a journalist. This guy.
And really desire to try to have some control over our lives. All that is contributing to this moment in time where we're seeing a spike in our orders and our actions are really meant to remind people that this is real. And one of the other things that we do.
Homelessness is real, Michael Hancock.
The impact of not everyone to do. The impact, for example, of, again, businesses shutting down, restaurants shutting down, that could absolutely be devastating to those businesses. We care about that stuff. Our kids, the fact that we want our kids to actually be in school, they learn better when they're in school. Adhering to these orders is extremely important to making sure that at least our elementary kids are back in person and getting what they need. And hopefully our older kids will be in Denver back in the classroom very soon. So there are cause and effect. There are consequences for us not following these orders. And our job today is really to put in place the legal framework for the civil enforcement, but also to, again, to sound the alarm that if we don't do these things, the consequences, quite frankly, could be devastating. So we just try to remind people that, and personal responsibility is the best way for us to handle that, and remind people we're waiting for a vaccine, but this is indeed scientifically proven the best vaccine we have right now to change this course of our trends and to make sure we're keeping each other safe.
Mayor, if I might add something to that.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to remind everyone that there are many things that we can still do. It's okay to go to your favorite restaurant. It's okay to go for a run through the park. It's okay to play basketball in the park as long as you adhere to the guidelines. It's okay to go to your favorite gym. So many things that can still be done as long as we're following the right restrictions for those venues. So if you go to your favorite restaurant, wear your face covering to get in the door when you're seated and ready to eat, then take your face covering off. And when you're done with your meal, and then put it back on and leave. So many things that can still be done. So I just wanted to share that.
This is nice Bloomberg News in Denver. I have a question regarding COVID-19 and hospitals. Denver, of course, is a medical hub in the West. Are the hospitals with the outbreak in Denver now feeling any strain from rural areas, such as the outbreak in Wyoming, of patients being transferred in, or other parts of Colorado? Thank you.
Bob, you want to answer that if you all have the information?
Yeah, sure. I don't have data in terms of how many people come from outside of state to get medical services here in Denver, outside of Denver, for that matter. I don't have that in front of me. But that's a reality that, we have residents outside of Denver that can come into Denver to our medical care providers. Right now, what I can tell you is that our hospital systems, our cases are increasing. It is not critical at this point. There are ICU beds available, and that is not a serious threat at this point, but the numbers are going up. And so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Of course, that's a critical component in terms of next steps, is the availability of our medical care providers to keep up. And along those lines, I just want to remind everyone what really is going to help keep those numbers down in terms of admissions to hospitals is to get a flu shot. Really, really critical this year more than ever.
Could you clarify something about the gatherings rules? So you said like professional and college sports have their own rules, and pickup games you need to have this 5-person rule. Where do intramural leagues fit into that? And also, if you say you want to meet with another household in the park, if you set up your family on one blanket and another family sets up its blanket 6 feet away, and you just kind of talk very loudly, is that allowed?
Yeah, great question. So when we talk about organized sports, we're talking about organized adult recreational programming as well. We're talking about organized youth soccer, those things, those types of events that have plans in place additional restrictions do not, the 5-person limit does not apply to them. What we're still saying that's really concerning is just large groups of informal gatherings in parks, sometimes upwards of dozens and dozens of people together, playing football, playing basketball, gathering for various reasons. That is what needs to stop. That's what these orders are targeted towards. In terms of your question about 5 people in one household sitting on a blanket having a picnic and being distanced from another family that they might know, technically that would be in compliance. However, we strongly encourage. This is not the time for large, even small groups of people to try to convene, but to stay apart. The more we try to do that, I think the more complicated and challenging it becomes with really spreading apart to the extent that we need to. Again, this is for 30 days and we'll revisit this, but we would encourage, families to do things with your household members as much as possible.
Any other
time
questions?
for one more?
Yep, we got time for one more question.
I have a quick question. Right now, restaurants are allowing people to gather at tables of 6 or up to 6, I believe. So does that shrink now to 5 with this order?
No, the hospitality industry, 10 people can gather at a table. These orders do not impact that. Where there are specific allowances above the gathering of 5, this order does not impact that number in those specific venues. And again, the reason for that is because those venues, and we'll stay with the line of restaurants here, they have many, many other restrictions in place. There are people who are working there, they're enforcing them, they have plans for that. And so this does not impact them.
It's a really quick question for the mayor. Can we get an update on sanctioning camping? Is the city any closer to choosing a site in the city?
When the group has identified a site that meets all the criteria, they will actually bring that recommendation to me. I know they're out vetting several sites at this point in time, and so I'll wait on them to give me the signal that they're ready for us to have a conversation about a particular location.
All right,
Can we
thanks
expect that by the
everyone.
end of the year
Ms.
before
Devon,
it gets really
That's the
cold?
last question. Sorry, everybody. That's the last question we have time for. And we're sticking with COVID at the moment. So thank you very much for your patience, everybody.
Thank you.
So you heard it from the mayor's staff. You cannot do homelessness and COVID in the same conversation because they're not interrelated. We're sticking to COVID, which means we can't talk about homeless because there's over 5,000 unhoused members of the Denver Society. So this is absolutely a video for you to share, for you to like, and for you to make a phone call, right? Denver residents, Twitter, share, Facebook, Instagram, go out there and tell your friends, tell your family what the new rules are. Tell everybody that they are restricted in their household to a maximum of 5 human beings. And if that is a blanket law on the people of the city and county of Denver, and it's not applied to people who live in Lakewood or Jefferson County or in Arvada or I guess then that we're just going to have to take our complaints to those spaces as well. But I also want to recommend that that we consider that that this is just this is something your lawyer needs to get a hold of, right? This is something that you need to figure out with your private attorney, your criminal and civil defense attorneys, what the responsibility is for a citation for feeding the homeless. According to the report today, the citation for gathering in a group of 5 people or more, even though 10 can sit in an organized event where they have standards, is that a homeless or an unhoused or a community meal, which is protected by the Constitution of the United States of America as free speech, right? If you don't remember that free speech is the rule of law, then let's go to Fort Lauderdale versus Food Not Bombs. And I know it's a Google search. Let's understand this. The court recognizes the significance of food sharing throughout history, like the flag of the United States of America. The significance of sharing meals with others dates back millennia. The court found in Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs was clearly engaged in more than a picnic in the park and had intended to establish an intent to express oneself. And if you want to read the whole thing, we'll give you the media CA11. And I don't know if you get this. Did you see my post right there? Boom. I put it in the feed. If you can see that, give me a 1. If you cannot, man, I don't know what to tell you. We're just going to have to show you that this is case 16-16808, filed 8/22/2018 in the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. Food Not Bombs, Fort Lauderdale. This is before Tolfat Jordan Steele. And here we go. In understanding what is going on around us, context matters. Food shared with company greatly differs greatly from a meal eaten alone. Unlike a solitary supper, a feast requires the host to entertain and the guests to interact. Lady Macbeth knew this and chided her husband for not giving the cheer at the banquet depicted in Shakespeare's play. As she explained, to feed were best at home, from thence the sauce is meat to ceremony, meeting bare without it. William Shakespeare, The Tragedy of Macbeth, Act 3, Scene 4, 1606. In the example that we're about to read, folks, we're talking about Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs. It's a non-profit organization that hosts weekly events at a public park in Fort Lauderdale. Oh, I just got the mayor's answer. It's an organized event. Thank you, Michael Hancock. I think I just got the answer because the law just stated it. Weekly events at a public park. It's an organized activity. Sharing at no cost with those who gather to eat. There's no food, no money for the food, right? It's free. We feed the people in the community. We set up a table. We have banners with our organization's name. We have hoodies. We wear clothes. They indicate on the news. You just Google it. They indicate on the news who we are. We're known. Okay? So we're an organized group providing an organized activity as the court ruled in this Food Not Bombs issue. Food Not Bombs Fort Lauderdale set up a table. They had organization with the logos like we have our hoodies. Here's some vegan food. Here's some non-vegan food. Meat, no meat, right? When the city of Fort Lauderdale enacted an ordinance in 2014 that restricted the food sharing, Food Not Bombs and some of its members, to whom we refer collectively as Fort Lauderdale Food Not Bombs, filed lawsuit under this lawsuit, 1983. So they allege that the ordinance and a related park rule violated the First Amendment rights of free speech and free association and were unconstitutionally vague. Hello. There are lawyers in the state of Colorado right now that are probably writing lawsuits. I may or may not have talked to one of them. I may or may not have talked to one of them. I might be sending an email to another one of them. But what we need to recognize is that they allege that the ordinance and the rules violated free speech rights. Okay? So last night, park curfew ticket was issued for this morning, I should say, at 4:00 in the morning for those people who were unhoused. So they moved across the street and they went to sleep. Right? They were threatened with arrest. So they packed up their shit and they moved. So the mayor didn't have to look at them gathered in a group of more than 5. So originally, Food Not Bombs lost their first case. You have to understand the reason things go to the Supreme Court is because people challenge, right? When you get arrested on a free speech violation, challenge, get convicted. If you must, appeal the case. Let the law decide, right? Did they really look at it all accurately? Did the Constitution get upheld in all aspects? You're not going to stop people from gathering on the Capitol for not because they want to open America back up and they want to go back to work. Then you can't issue orders that would stop activists from holding free speech protected activity. Right? They literally said you can't have a Halloween party. You can't go trick-or-treating. You can't. Just no. Just done. We're done. Doesn't matter how the election turns out. You have no constitutional rights to free speech, to gather, and to address your grievances. Throw it all out the window. There are no hand-washing stations. There are no toilets publicly available. Only the law has the right to dictate. And today, Mayor Hancock is indicating that he is the law. Per the health department, guess what? The core demands have already been filed. Why? Because surgical precision is on it. Okay? The health department cannot define what kind of condition causes a camp to be unsafe. But today the mayor said that people cannot camp next to each other because 5 or more people in the protection of one another, in safety and security, it's illegal. So go ahead and gather in encampments of 10 or more. You're violating health code orders. You will be given tickets and you will be dispersed. This is America today. In the city and county of Denver, where I am residing from my home right now. We're broadcasting live from the address, right? This is our answer. When I walk out the door, if I'm in a couple of people, 2 of us or more, put a mask on, and that's fine. I'm okay with wearing masks. Sometimes they get a little claustrophobic, but we survive, okay? Wear a mask. Gather safely. Social distance. But you cannot silence speech. You can restrict weapons. You can have a weapons safe zone. We have weapons free zones, right? If you're a concealed carry, there are buildings you're not allowed to carry into. So if you want a concealed carry zone-free area for a protest or an action, or you want to guarantee people's constitutional rights, and you want to have a zone where people can transgress from and to a protest in a zone from their car to the protest and back, you had your free speech, right? It's organized, but you can't unorganize free speech and say you don't have the right to gather. And if 3 other people gather next to you, it's against the law. Stephen, you have a right to exercise your rights. If you don't want to wear a mask, go out by yourself and don't hang out with anybody. That's what Hancock has just instructed Denver residents, not Aurora residents, not Lakewood residents, not Arapahoe residents, but Denver residents. So that's my take. Any gathering, a line at the post office in downtown Denver of 5 autonomous people who are waiting to send their mail is now an illegal act for the next 30 days. So I'm just appalled. I have to tell you that this is education about all levels of rights, because homeless people can't live together, and unhoused people need body warmth to stay alive. They need shelter space. Patrick, if people start protesting outside of the city and county building and protest to what's going on, and they arrive individually with their masks on and walk or hold space in groups of less than 10 people or 5 people or less, I guess, and don't commingle, because that's the catchword. They're worried about commingling. That's what's against the law, commingling. It's like group sex. You can't do it, allegedly, right? If 5 or more people are having sex in the same spot, that is now against the law. So as the mayor regulates, and a reality check is that if you live in a house of 4 people or 3 people, if 3 people live in a house and all 3 people have girlfriends or boyfriends or theys or thems or others who hang out overnight, that's illegal. Hazardous condition. I'm hoping for my 35 acres of 1983 property with my own aquifer and water rights. That would be the best way to do it. I would hazard to suggest. So moral standards are the issue here. Is this a moral order? Was it ever moral to ban people from gathering to protect their constitutional rights? I have a feeling it wasn't. So make love. You heard that one. Morbid Angel, Hip Hop, Stephen Wazer, all of you that are here live, all of you that have shared this video, right? And that have Zebedonius Hall, Rob B1. I want to thank you all for being here. I want you to thank you, because I know you're sharing it on Facebook, you're sharing it on YouTube, you're sharing it on Instagram, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Snapchat, or whatever it is that you're on. You're sharing it, right? Your free speech, your rights, my rights, the rights to assemble, they're very important and protected rights, and we need to protect them. So thank you all. I fixed my lens. I got a new phone with a new lens and a new lens screen, but it didn't fit right. So that's the internal lens. We got to figure these things out one day at a time, folks. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.